Hello and welcome to Arise News and our sports review of the year 2021. My name is Ferdinand Duro, and joining me today to help make sense of all the action, intensity, drama, success and disappointment from an amazing sporting year are two of our very own sports superstars. With me here in the studio, I have Maxwell Lawrence, a broadcaster and a member of the Sports Writers Association of Nigeria. Thank you so much, Maxwell, for joining us.
Thank you.
And live from Lagos is Arise sports correspondent, Aaron Akerejala. Such a pleasure to have you around, Aaron. Now, thanks to both of you for joining me. Now, let's dive in. Now, after a difficult 2020, which saw sports cancelled, postponed, or played to empty stadiums, 2021 burst back into life with all the theatre, emotion, and joy we missed so much. Now, we watched major international events, saw legends cement their greatness, enjoyed the emergence of new sporting superstars, and also witnessed a fair amount of controversy on and off the field. And Arise Sports covered it all. So with plenty to discuss, time to get going. Now, coming up in today's show, let's take a look at some of the biggest headlines. We'll look back at a year dominated by the Olympics, which made an incredible return after a year's delay. And African sports take center stage also as we review the best moments across the continent. I will also round up all the global sporting events and other stars who made the headlines in the year 2021. And stay tuned because at the end of the show, my guests Aaron and Maxwell will choose the event of the year for us. So plenty to look forward to in today's show, but where else can we start than with the greatest sporting event in the world, the Olympics. In July 2021, a year later than planned, in front of an empty national stadium in Tokyo and watched by a world still largely in the midst of a global pandemic, the Olympics began finally. Now, global audience of millions turned in to watch 2 weeks of thrilling action as more than 11,000 athletes competed for glory, and what a show did it put on. Now, we'll cover all the talking points from the Tokyo 2020 in a moment, but first, let's have a quick look at some of the best moments from the quite breathtaking month of sporting achievement in Japan.
After a year's delay, Japanese tennis superstar Naomi Osaka was given the honor of lighting the 2020 Tokyo Olympic flame and declared to the world, "Let the games begin." There were thrilling highs. Lamont Marcel Jacobs stood on the wall to win the men's 100 meters final for Italy. Elaine Thompson-Herah of Jamaica blew the field away to defend the 100 meters and the 200 meters titles she won in Rio. American swimmer Caleb Dressel won an incredible 5 gold medals in the pool, the most of any competitor in Tokyo. And new sports such as skateboarding, surfing, sports climbing, and karate brought the Tokyo Games to a whole new audience. But there were also lows. After suffering an injury, U.S. gymnastics superstar Simone Biles put out of several competitions to focus on her mental health. And Naomi Osaka found the pressure of being the face of the games too much to handle, as she lost in the third round of the women's singles tennis. And as ever, there were incredible moments of pure inspiration and emotions too.
Can we have 2 gold? It's possible.
Qatar's Mutaz Bashim and Italy's Gianmarco Tamberi agreed to share the gold in the high jump after they were left tied in the leaders' board. Many saw this as the essence of Olympic competitions and one of the best moments of the Games. And as the curtain came down on Tokyo 2020, the world reflected on an Olympics that was postponed and played out behind closed doors, but which still has the power to unite the planet.
Now, those were indeed some amazing moments from the individual achievement of Lamont Marcel Jacobs, the Italian who stunned the world in the 100 meters, to the heartwarming shared gold medal in high jump. Now, let's start with you, Maxwell. Quite very interesting. Now, the fact that these games took place after such a delay, we remember in 2020, we all almost cried when we heard the Olympics have been postponed. Brought us tragedy and sadness. I'm sure they offered some form of joy and unity for the athletes and fans alike.
Yes, I quite agree with you, Ferdinand. It was a year that many felt the Olympics was never going to take the center stage. Eventually, it did. It did, but to be honest with you, the fear of the organizers was always not to use the Tokyo Games more like a springboard to the next wave of the pandemic, the COVID-19 pandemic. But somehow that was averted because the fans were not allowed in. International supporters were not allowed to grace the occasion. 11,000 athletes coming together. It was really something to behold, but somehow it took the fun away from me, to be honest with you. But all said and done, I still think the Olympics was indeed a success. It was a huge success. Should they have held? Absolutely, yes. There's no way we could have, just struck off the Olympic like that. Don't forget the athletes. They've been preparing. And one worry that continued to rear its ugly head during that period was the fact that the athletes, they kept going into that Olympic mood, that competition mood. And before you know it, it's another postponement. It really affected most of the athletes.
All right, let's switch over to Aaron, who is in our Lagos studios. Now, Aaron, in the build-up to the games, there were a lot of concerns about the health risk to athletes and local people in Tokyo. Was holding the Olympics the right thing to do?
Ferdinand, if you'd ask me, I would say yes. Because in as much as we value life, but life is only for the living. And if for some, they've literally held up their life, put a pause on their life because of the Olympics. They've trained for 5, 6, 7, some a decade, preparing for the Olympics. It will be travesty of the greatest order if you decide that because of the Olympics, because of safety, which can be worked around, you cancel the Olympics. The truth is this: it's one thing to see things from the perspective as a spectator. It's another to see the games from the perspective as an athlete and an organizer of the games. The games cost well over 12 billion to actually host. Certainly, postponing the games meant that it was going to even cost more. I understood the plight of where Japan came from, but the truth is this. The best way out of it was having a scaled back, a toned down Olympics. That was only going to be fair to the athletes.
And that was exactly what we had of some sort. The Olympics that were indeed toned down. All right, well, let's move on. And once the action started, there were some amazing moments where Maxwell definitely, I'm so sure you did enjoy the game. So share some of these moments with us.
Well, I think one moment I would never forget in a hurry is the 100 meters sprint, the final. That was out of this world for me. I'm not afraid to admit that prior to that final, I've never heard of the Italian, Lamont Marcel. So when I looked up and I was like, who's this in front? Was an Italian. It was unbelievable. It was like, wow, this is really a very unusual Olympics. That's one moment I would never forget as far as the Olympic is concerned.
However, it wasn't a very successful games for Team Nigeria, winning just 2 medals, and I'm talking about 1 silver and a bronze. Now, what's behind this poor performance, Aaron?
It's down to planning and it's down to motivation. We can always scale through because Nigeria, or the Nigerian spirit always spur people to go and do great things. But when the team lacks motivation, it's almost like a double whammy. The fact that we don't prepare on time, and the fact that going to the games, Nigeria is not invested in athletes. How then can they go out there and shake the world if they know that the nation is not behind them?
Now, there was also controversy for the Nigerian Olympic team. We must talk about Blessing Okagbare Otegere. Well, one of our biggest stars. Now, she was withdrawn from the 100-meter semi-final for failing a drug test. Now, so couldn't compete. Now, this was alongside a controversy of 10 Nigerian athletes being banned because of non-compliance with out-of-competition drug testing requirements in the run-up to the Games. Now, come on, Maxwell, what went wrong for the Nigerian team?
We're not trading blames here, but trust me, from the athletes to the administrators, we got it all wrong from the get-go. On the part of the athletes, it is their responsibility to ensure that these out-of-competition tests are being carried out. If the administrator failed on their part to do this thing, it behoves on you as an athlete to call the attention to it. I think this has to be done. So I think everyone went to sleep, and they waited for the last day, which is the Olympics, and it really affected us massively because you never can tell. One or two of these, disqualified athletes could have easily made a podium finish. So I blame it on the athletes, on the administrators. Everything just went south for Nigeria.
Now, another huge moment during these games was four-time Olympic gold medalist and American sporting royalty, Simone Biles, pulling out of the women's gymnastics team final, saying she had to focus on her mental health.
I just felt like it would be a little bit better to take a back seat, work on my mindfulness, and I knew that the girls would do an absolutely great job, and I didn't want to risk the team a medal for kind of my screw-ups because they've worked way too hard for that. So I just decided that those girls need to go in and do the rest of the competition. Yeah, I say put mental health first, because if you don't, then you're not going to enjoy your sport and you're not going to succeed as much as you want to. So it's okay sometimes to even sit out the big competitions to focus on yourself, because it shows how strong of a competitor and person that you really are, rather than just battle through it.
Taking a look at Simone Biles and her decision to pull out. Now, did she help a lot of future athletes by openly talking about her mental health issues?
We saw her buckle under the pressure. She spoke about it. The beauty about it is, moving forward, they know that it is not a taboo subject anymore. They know that it's something that needs to be discussed, and administrators of the game need to pay attention to this.
Time to wrap up our Olympics segment. So, come on, I'll ask you guys. There were no crowds to cheer, support, or encourage the athletes in Tokyo. But come on, guys, in the end, did this really matter at all?
I think it mattered a lot. The fact that we did not have the fans to cheer these athletes to victory, you know, the athletes could virtually hear themselves. The echo in the stands, it was just not right. I feel it was massively missed, the fans who are the 12th supporter, like we say in football. So you just cannot write that off. It really affected the Olympics.
Now it's time to look at them a little more closely, the sports in our own continent and Nigeria in particular. Now the best place to start has to be the amazing Nigerian women's basketball team. Aren't they indeed amazing? Back in September, the Tigers beat Mali 72-59 in Yaoundé, Cameroon to win the 2021 AfroBasket Women's Championship. Now, the victory means Nigeria continued their domination of African women basketball, winning the 2017, 2019, and also 2021 editions without even dropping a game. There were even more joy for the Tigers as Nigeria captain Adora Ilonu was also named the tournament's most valuable player. Now, come on, Aaron. The Tigers were the favorites going in and proved to everyone why.
If you look at this particular team, the last time they lost a game was back in 2015, and we're talking about the fact that we're in 2021. So it said a lot about their resilience, it said a lot about their consistency, it said a lot about their doggedness, it said a lot about so much from these ladies. The Tigers have been phenomenal. They are a massive tour de force, if you'd ask me. I love the way they soldier on. I love what they do, because they are a massive inspiration to the young girl out there. You and I know this. Sports for women in Africa is not the same thing as sports for men in Africa. But when we keep seeing winners pop up here and become a massive inspiration to the young girl on the street, trust me, I would always celebrate that.
What other Nigerian successes did catch your eye this year, Maxwell?
I would go with Blessing Oburududu in the wrestling. You know, it came at the time where Nigerians were already lamenting. We are not going to finish on the medal podium. Nigerians were saddened at the fact that a few of our athletes were just disqualified. Our queen of the track, Blessing Okagbare, also disqualified. We're going to come back empty-handed, but Blessing Oburududu in the wrestling category was able to salvage a point for Nigeria, getting a silver, and that to me is one success that we have to celebrate and will continue to celebrate. She's been appreciated all over the country already.
Well, that's it for this part one, but make sure you join us in a couple of minutes when we'll look back on all the other major sporting events and stars that made headlines around the world in 2021. We cast our eyes forward to the big sporting events planned in 2022 and we'll pick our favorite sporting moments of the year. I'll see you soon. Now it's time for us to look at some of the major stars and events that made sporting headlines around the globe in 2021. Now let's start with Euros 2020, another delayed tournament, but great action when it arrived. In the final back in July, home favourites England faced Italy. The match finished 1-1, and after a tense period of extra time failed to find a winner, the game was decided on penalties. Italy eventually lifted the trophy, defeating the host 3-2 on penalties at the famous Wembley Stadium to lift their second European Championship title. Interesting, guys. Well, I'll start with you in the studios at Maxwell. A cruel end it was for England. They all thought it was coming home. But was Italy worthy winners?
Yes, they were. I mean, football went to Rome. We all saw it. The man of the moment, for me, definitely Roberto Mancini. You know, he turned the Italian, the Azzurri, into an unbelievable team. They just went on and got the job done. Unfortunately for the Three Lions, they all thought it was definitely going to come home. I think they allowed it to get over their head. Perhaps a little more of concentration, a little more of a separation from all of the razzmatazz that was going on around could have helped their cause. Unfortunately, they were too carried away. So Italy were the champions all day long for me.
Now, staying with football, two of the best players of all times moved clubs this season. Messi leaving Barcelona and Ronaldo returning to Manchester. I bet you didn't see that one coming. Now, Aaron, how surprised were you that they both moved? Not just that they both moved, they did move in the same summer.
And for those who had seen the handwriting on the wall, they knew this was going to happen. They were just kicking the can down the road for Barcelona and the La Liga. Javier Tebas, if you'd asked me, he knew that they were just marking time, that Lionel Messi at some point was going to leave Barcelona because he had outgrown Barcelona in terms of the wages he was commanding. Barcelona could not afford Lionel Messi anymore. Same as Juventus and Cristiano Ronaldo.
It's a shame that for both of them, well, we've not really seen the best of them, especially for Lionel Messi, who did move to Paris, and, well, not plenty of goals from that prolific player. But congratulations to him. He won the Ballon d'Or this year. Now, in tennis, it was another huge year for Novak Djokovic, and there is a new superstar in the women's game also. Now, Djokovic won 3 of the 4 Grand Slams, lifting the Australian Open, the French Open, and also the Wimbledon, before losing the US Open final. In the women's game, the big story was 18-year-old British player Emma Radocano, who came through qualifying to stun the world when she won the US Open in September. Come on, Maxwell. Interesting. Were Novak and Emma the best players in 2021?
They say numbers don't lie. a number two in life for Novak Djokovic. Absolutely, he stood out. I mean, getting 3 of the 4 Grand Slams. You just cannot argue that he's still the very best as far as tennis in the men's category is concerned. And for Emma, the 18-year, just coming up the ranks, you have to give it to her as well, even though I wouldn't, outrightly say she's the best tennis player in 2021, but she was able to really give a good account of herself. That's something for us to look forward to in 2022.
Indeed. Well, Novak deserves all the drum roll for his performance. I will look forward to him giving us such blistering performances again in 2022. But let's take a minute to talk about Emma Radocano. Come on, Aaron. She looks like a superstar in the women's game and could be at the very top for many years to come. Don't you think so?
For those that have been following the progress, it wasn't a surprise. But for some that didn't even know her name before the start of the US Open at Flushing Meadows, it was a huge surprise. Is this a flash in the pan, like the Sloane Stephens of this world, like the Yelena Ostapenkos of this world? Or are we seeing the real deal like Serena Williams, Margaret Court? It's left to be seen. On the 17th of January, she needs to start off the blocks flying.
All right, well, let's leave tennis and then go to something quite exciting. Well, let's talk boxing. Well, it was a big year also for the big men, particularly in the heavyweights. Now, some huge fights in the heavyweight division, starting with the conclusion of the Fury-Wilder trilogy. Now, Fury-Wilder Part 3 took place in Nevada in the United States in October and was a fight for the ages. Well, it was a brutal contest with Fury eventually winning the fight via 11th round knockout. Well, that wasn't all, but talking about that one, Maxwell, was the trilogy fight between Fury and Wilder the fight of the year.
Tyson Fury absolutely dominated the trilogy. Many thought the Bronx Bomber each time was going to bounce back. It was going to give us a good contest, a good fight. He did try, especially in the last fight. Unfortunately, I think Tyson Fury was a better boxer, so he took his chances. He got the win. So there's really nothing we can say. It's still the biggest fight that happened in 2021, in my opinion.
Moving away from boxing, well, let's go straight to another sport. Well, for me, this seems like the sport of the year. Well, Formula One, which has seen all the greatest, which gave us plenty of, plenty excitement and plenty huge battles this year. Now, 7-time world champion Sir Lewis Hamilton going head-to-head with the young challenger Max Verstappen. There were crashes, there were arguments, penalties, victories, and defeats, and some great racing. But in the end, it all came down to the last race of the big season in Abu Dhabi. Interesting, but it's a victory that's proven controversial. Well, let's not forget that Mercedes also tried very, very hard to indeed make their case known. But Max Verstappen is the Formula One champion for 2021. Come on, Aaron, is this the best battle in Formula One history?
You look at the race in 2021, I can tell you one thing for sure. The biggest winner from this year has to be Formula One itself, because Formula One opened themselves up to a vast array of audience. The intrigues, the twists and the turns actually got more people excited about Formula One. Formula One have been deliberate about trying to reach a younger audience, because when you check the demographics that actually always watch Formula One, it's always the older ones.
Now let's cast our minds a little further ahead now to 2022 and what promises to be another amazing year. Now the 33rd edition of the African Cup of Nations takes place in Cameroon between the 9th of January and February 6th. Now, some of football's biggest superstars all in action, with Algeria hoping to retain the crown from 2019. Now, the whole of the footballing world will be tuned in to see the global stars like Mo Salah, Sadio Mane, and Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang. Now, hot on the heels of the Olympics this year, we also have the Commonwealth Games in 2022. Now, the games take place from the 26th or the 28th of July to the 8th of August in Birmingham, England, and feature 286 sessions across 19 different sports, all within 11 days. So the summer of 2022 promises to be a spectacular one full of medals in swimming and diving, basketball, cricket, gymnastics, athletics, and even much more. And of course, at the end of 2022, there's the big one, the World Cup, to look forward to. Now, on the 21st of November 2022, the first FIFA World Cup to take place in the Middle East and Arab world will kick off at the stunning Al-Berta Stadium as the world's best 32 national teams meet in Qatar for a month of football action. Now, there's plenty to look forward to in 2022, but let's end with a very quick final look back at the highs and lows of 2021 as I ask my guests to pick their favorite moment of sport in 2021.
The injury that unified the world of sports together, talking about that particular scary moment that Christian Eriksen actually faced at the Euro 2020 with Denmark.
Well, for me, it has got to be Lemon Marcel Jacobs winning the 100 meters race. That was absolutely out of the blocks, out of this world. I never saw it coming. An Italian winning the 100s in a sprint that Usain Bolt has often dominated.
Well, for me, definitely it was Tyson Fury and Deontay Wilder. A great fight and one for the ages. And that's all we have time for today. I would like to thank Maxwell and Aaron for joining me as we say goodbye to 2021. And we hope to see you again in 2022 for another year of amazing sporting action on Arise News.